So, very good evening, friends. Meeting again in the session of philosophy, and we have to start with new chapter from H.A. Robert. That is chapter number 15, the drug proving. This is a chapter which is again semi-practical, but importance of it have been mentioned by H.A. Robert in this specific chapter. So we'll go little bit fast. The things which are necessary for us, we're going to learn. And many things, it is mentioned in very simple language. So we'll go little bit fast to complete this chapter. So what he says in chapter drug proving, drugs have been used as a usual method of cure for disease since antiquity, and their derivations varied from simple herbs and substances to fearsome combinations from all imaginable sources. So this is since long time we are using the drugs in the field of medicine. Some were herbs, some were combination of toxic medicinal substances. The preparation and administration of medicine was kept as a mystery for centuries. And the medicine man was held as superior and revered as little, more than mortal for his powers. Various doctrines of healing sprang up through the years. Perhaps the most interesting of these was the doctrine of signatures, founded on the belief that each member of vegetable kingdom carried within itself the likeness of some organ or part of human economy, as a sign that this particular plant was applicable to disturbances of that organ. That was probably the most consistent method among all the very ancient system of applying drugs. So, since ancient times, many varieties of drug substances were tried. Some were herbs, some chemicals, some were toxins, some were poisons. All varieties of drug substances were used. And there was no method of proving them. It was on the different thoughts. Some were utilized on the basis of toxicological effect. Some were used on the basis of some specific entities carried in it. And because of which people were administering those medicines without knowing what exactly does it cause. There was one thing which was famous, which was called to be a doctrine of signature, that the certain characteristic of that plant are there in the patient, and on the basis of that doctrine of signature, we must prescribe the remedy. But that was at least one thing where you can correlate, yes, there is some similarity. But there was no question of proving the drugs on anyone. There was no question of proving the drugs on healthy human beings. And that was a big question, big problem. So, drug proving was a different method which was not done earlier properly before Hahnemann. It was random. Many times it was done on animals, and considering what effects it causes, it used to produce similar effects in the human being, and they were tried. So there was not a scientific method of proving the drugs, and that's why he has introduced it with this paragraph. And then he further says, as medical knowledge progressed, occasional writers caught glimpses of better methods of drug application. But such light was rare, and medical practice soon lapsed once more into the gloom of superstition. Paracelsus gained considerable insight into the actions of drugs, and Halle, the Swedish physician, was forerunner of Hahnemann in his deliberate experiment to discover the nature of certain remedies. These attempts were not coordinated and made little impression upon the medical world. It was not until Hahnemann demanded to know the action of drugs upon human organism that the work was taken up in an orderly way, and this demand, however, was not forthcoming until after he discovered the law of cure. The discovery of law of cure made it mandatory to know the action of drugs, and Hahnemann set to work to obtain that knowledge and called the work as a drug proving. So he's mentioning exactly how was the history of drug proving earlier, before Hahnemann. One person was there that is called as Paracelsus. So Paracelsus was a very important entity, one of the epochal figures in the history of medicine. After Hippocrates, there was Galen, and after Galen, there was Paracelsus. And these are the people who have started at least doing some importance of application of drugs, proving the medicines, making the vaccines, and all those medical scientific methods they have tried. Paracelsus was one of the figure, and thereafter one person who was Swedish physician called Halle, who were working on that principle. But their work was not experimented properly, and it remained as it is. It never remained persistent, and because of which the method of proving the drugs was not introduced in the field of medicine. When Hahnemann discovered the law of cure, after proving the cinchona bark on himself, and when he confirmed that it produces certain symptoms when taken in such a form, and he has utilized it on the basis of same symptomatology. So when he has utilized those on the basis of that symptom similarity, and when it worked, and he was astonished that both sentences from the Cullen's Materia Medica were right. First sentence was that the cinchona bark has the property of producing the malaria-like symptoms in the healthy human being. And second sentence was that cinchona bark cures the malaria. And these contradictory sentences, when found to be confirmed on experimentation, the era of drug proving started. Then Hahnemann thought, yes, this is the way we have to go ahead. Then he thought, yes, there must be a necessary that we must prove the drugs and write it down, and we can apply it on the law, law of similars. And this is how drug proving has started. So he has mentioned in short a history of drug proving. And now he turns, what is a drug and what do we do to prove a drug? In order to answer the question, what is a drug? We must go back and ask, what is life? So he is going to the basics. He is going towards every basic that if you want to understand the drug, then you have to understand the life. What is life? Continued action of those forces through and upon the organs of the body, which preserves it from decay. This is life. And health is that balanced action of these forces which preserves the integrity of all parts. So he is going to the basics. What is life? Then he has mentioned life is nothing but those forces which runs and acts upon the organs of the body, which preserves the body for decaying. Then he mentions that health is a balanced condition of those forces. And then he says, in this balance lies the conservation of the whole. Without this balance, more or less, destruction of the parts is the result. And value of this balance is determined by the importance and number of organs or functions involved. So he is going toward the basics. He is explaining what is life, then he is explaining what is health, and then he is turning what is disease. And this is the homeopathic concept of understanding the disease. Once you understand those concepts clearly, then it becomes rather easy to understand rest of the concepts. So once you know what is life, what is health, what is disease, then it becomes easy to understand what is a drug. A drug is any material agent in however attenuated form, the ingestion of which is capable of so disturbing this balance of the vital forces that the functioning of one or more organs of the body is no longer carried out to the best of the whole. And any material substance capable of so acting on the living organism is a drug. Hence, drugs are essentially destructive. Therein lies the difference between drugs and foods. Drugs are destructive while foods are constructive. Both drugs and foods acts upon vital force which rules in all animate beings. So he is explaining it in a short and simple way. He explains that the drug substance which has the capacity to alter the human state of health at the level of sensations and functions is nothing but the drug substance. Whether it is given in crude form or whether it is given in attenuated form. If given in crude form, it works as a destructive force. And that's why he mentioned over there, drug is a substance which is destructive. As compared, when you utilize another substance, the food substance, which has a characteristic of it is constructive, it constructs the body. And in a simple terminology, he mentioned over there that drugs are destructive, whereas food is constructive. And both drugs and food act upon vital force, which rules to all the animate beings. Then he further says, to ascertain the knowledge of drug is to discover what disturbance of this balance it is capable of producing and what organs are affected, how and what functional changes are made manifest. So when we have to understand what properties this drug substance is having, then we have to utilize it. Then you have to see what capacity it has, where it acts, what is the center of action, what it used to produce, what are the functional symptoms which comes out as a result. So you have to look for each and everything. When you give the medicine, you have to look for those things. Then and then only you understand what properties this drug substance carries. When we have discovered all this about drug, we can say we have approving. So when you apply it on human being and see what it causes, then you understand, yes, the drug proving has been started. In order to be sure of the integrity of our work, we must demand three essential things. What he is saying? In order to be sure of the integrity of our work, we must demand three essential things. First of it is, the quality of drug must be pure. It must be free from all mixtures with other drugs, and it must possess all its active properties. So, if you want to go for drug proving, certain qualities and certain rules should be followed. Out of which, the first important rule is that the quality of drug substance should be very, very pure. So, this is very important thing. Unless it is there, it is not possible to get the results. So, drug substance should be pure. It should not be adulterated. Mixture means adulterated. It should not be adulterated. And it must possess all its active properties. So, it should be in active form, not in crude form. Number two, the prover must possess the proper balance in functions and be in a normal healthy state so that we can estimate and weigh the amount of disturbance caused when we deliberately upset the balance of health. The prover should be a homeopath. He must know that what is the proper balance in functions and sensations in normal healthy state so that he can acknowledge what is abnormal that has happened after giving the medicine. So prover should have that quality where who can easily understand what is normal and what is abnormal. What are the symptoms which comes out after the proving? If he is able to read that, then he is able to go for drug proving. So second important thing is that knowledge of the prover regarding the balanced state of health. And then he turns towards the third. The circumstances surrounding the prover must be those of his normal surrounding so that drug can express its action under conditions and circumstances normal to the prover. That any deviation from the normal in the prover's condition cannot be attributed to the different circumstances and conditions of the life, but directly to the action of drug. So third important thing, that environment, related with the environment and conditions or circumstances surrounding the prover, they should be absolutely normal. There should not be any change. There should not be change in order. There should not be anything which has been introduced or which is abnormal. Otherwise, it is not pure proving. It might be some symptoms of the prover, some symptoms of the circumstances which has created them. And that's why before going for the drug proving, three important qualities, which are three important points which he has mentioned. First is related with the drug substance. Second is related with the person who is conducting the proving. And third is related with the prover and his surrounding. These are three important things which he has mentioned related with it, and because of which we can get a thorough and clear proving. And then it goes further. These 3 points must be maintained most carefully. What is it? These 3 points must be maintained most carefully. The ordinary habits of life must be observed. His ordinary work maintained. Otherwise, changes from his routine might cause some deviations from his normal balance, which would attributed to the drug action. So, you have to look for patient's ordinary habits. You have to look for patient's ordinary things, what are going on. And if it is normal, then you will get proper proving. If it is not, if there is change, then it can affect your proving. And that's why there should not be any deviation from the normal balance of the prover. All people do not make equally good provers. And this is true. If you prove it on different peoples, you'll not going to get a very same proving. Some provers shows many symptoms, some provers shows very few symptoms, because it depends upon the susceptibility of each and every individual. It depends upon the constitution of each and every individual. It depends upon the mathematic background of each and every individual, and that's why you're not going to get same features with each and every prover. Some types are more susceptible to certain drug groups than are other types. And those who manifest susceptibility to the action of drugs to the point of developing symptoms must be secured for the satisfactory proving. So there is variation of action. Some provers show very severe reaction to the drug substance, whereas some are very less. This varies. It depends upon the susceptibility of that individual. It depends upon what drug substance you have given. So there are many things which are which comes together. Those who are peculiarly susceptible to the drug make the best provers, for it is the peculiarly susceptible who develop in the proving the peculiar, rare, characteristic symptoms of the drug. 8. Those who are less susceptible cannot be rejected as the provers, provided they develop symptoms even in a small degree, as these serve to verify symptoms produced in extremely susceptible and thus establish them as a true symptoms and not chance of observation. See how much details the Hahnemann mentions and how much details the Robert mentions regarding it. First important thing which he mentions over there, that if the prover is susceptible, it's good for homeopathic proving. Because you get many peculiar characteristic symptoms in his proving. That's why highly susceptible provers are necessary. But at the same time, he mentions that it is not like that low susceptible provers should not have any role. They are also important because they confirms many things, that whether proving which has been done on the susceptible person have certain symptoms, they are confirmed with the help of these low susceptible persons also. Not all provers will develop or give identical symptomatology. Some recording a complete symptom while others will record but a partial symptom. So proving also varies from individual to individual. Some provers mentions the whole symptom, gives you a complete symptom, gives you a detailed understanding of the symptom, gives you characteristic symptom, and some provers gives you a vague symptom. And that's why you never get the whole similar data from each and every prover. So you have to write it down, each and everything, whatever the mentions. And then he further says, in a consideration of food and susceptible prover, in some instances, an individual will manifest an idiosyncrasy to certain food or groups of food. To this susceptible, the food becomes a drug, and the individual having this idiosyncrasy is merely manifesting his susceptibility to the possible drug properties in this food substance. He will the best possible prover of this drug. So there are certain personalities who are having a peculiar corporeal constitutions who react to a normal food atom in an exaggerated way. Those persons we label by the name of idiosyncratic persons. And those idiosyncratic persons who are highly susceptible. Hello. So those susceptible persons who are highly susceptible, those idiosyncratic persons who are highly susceptible are definitely the persons who are best provers in your proving experiment. So that's why it has been said that idiosyncratic individuals are the best provers. And we'll complete one more paragraph in today's session. The prover must be intelligent enough properly to appreciate and record the subjective symptoms as deviations from his normal condition of life, as the subjective symptoms are of utmost value. What he says over there is having a tremendous value. If a person who understands the importance of subjective symptoms very easily, then he can record them and it will be useful for us in our material. Because subjective symptoms are more individualistic than the objectives. And person must know the importance of subjective symptoms. Generally, subjective symptoms are nothing but the functional symptoms. They are not pathologies. And that's why those symptoms which are mentioned by the patient, prover, but they are not visible to the person who is conducting the proving, has a lot of importance. There is a vast difference in people in their ability both to perceive and to describe their subjective symptoms. Therefore, we must have a prover who has a gift of perception. What he is saying? We must have a prover who has the gift of perception. What is perception? Perception is nothing but the understanding. Perceiving is the thing where intelligence plays into the role or comes into the role. Perceiving is the thing where the sensitivity comes into the role. Perceiving is the thing where understanding comes into the role. And because of which one can easily understand what is happening with him, what are the changes happening with him after drug has started proving. And if he is intelligent enough, he can write it down each and every detail which has meaning. And to complete that paragraph, he says, we find the lack of perception in many patients who cannot describe their symptoms. Such people do not make good provers. Such people do not make good provers. So people who never understands, who are not able to perceive the things, who are lacking in perception, where we cannot get the details and we cannot understand or we cannot get proper proving from them. So best prover is always an idiosyncratic individual. At the same time, the prover must be intelligent enough to understand the importance of perceiving. So that's all for today. We'll conclude over here. Tomorrow we'll meet with the remaining part of the chapter. And today evening, we're going to discuss one very important remedy from our Mater Medica is nothing but the sickle corn, the 30 years remedy. So it is an important remedy. One should not miss that. And I will discuss the case of sickle corn followed by the Allen's keynotes, understanding of sickle corn. So that's all for today. Good evening. We'll meet again at 8:50.
Thank you very much, sir.
Thank you.
Thank you, sir.
Okay, please label your mobile.